Hey everybody, hello and welcome to another episode of Ladies with Tradies, how to stop shit hitting the fan in love, life and business. Today I'm with the beautifuls, Sally and Tristan Higgs from Alykan Electrical. How you going, guys?
Yeah, really good, thanks.
Good.
That's good. I'm really thrilled to have you along for this podcast for this month's theme, which is all around team. And like I said to you both, I've been waiting for the perfect podcast episode to have you guys on because we've been together. I love how I talk like we're in a relationship for a little while now, and knowing that I wanted to get you on here and there, I can't think of a better topic because you really epitomize great leadership in building a great team. So but first, before we get into all of that, let's hear a bit about you guys. So tell us about who you are and who you have been as individuals and how Alykan came to being.
I think I'll go first for this one. So we grew up in New Zealand, and like most typical Kiwis, had no idea what I wanted to do as I was growing up. So I've been in that many jobs, it's not funny. Starting off in retail, moving up and into management type roles, into auditing roles, and then I decided for a bit of a sea change before coming over here and went into law enforcement in the sense of customs. When Sally ended up having to move to Australia for work, I decided it was time for change yet again, and as an adult decided to do an electrical apprenticeship. So that's a bit about my background. Did the apprenticeship.
So what age were you, Tristan, when you did your apprenticeship?
I started my apprenticeship when I was 30.
Oh, I love it.
So never too late to change. It's always, just never too late to change.
Very cool. What about you, Sal?
So I did the whole started retail thing. I did a double degree in law and commerce and went into banking. So I actually used to fund and do banking for mid-sized businesses, New Zealand, and then moved into the tech side, so actually building products to help organisations, and that was the opportunity that I had to come to Australia with. So we came over, and then I've worked for banks, I've worked for tech companies in accounting, payroll, and recruitment, building software to help organisations make these processes and things easier. So had lots of opportunities of leadership training, team training, seeing how all sorts of businesses from the micro businesses to the large scale global corporations operating. So when Tristan was like, I want to go into electrical, and was working through with another business, that got to a point where things weren't necessarily running as well for them, and we sort of went, you know what, we've got the skills and the background, why can't we make a go of it ourselves, and let's back ourselves in. So 2017, Tristan was fully qualified, had been for a while, and so we jumped on in and built Alykan. So what's that, 4 years ago now.
And even just listening to you say 2017, it's sort of like I have this moment of, oh my goodness, it has not been long since inception, really. You know, it's still a very young company for all that it's achieved already. So I love the stories behind Sally and Tristan and how they've come to this point, because it does certainly inspire. It inspires me. You guys always inspire me, but I think it'll inspire other people. The wives, the tradie wives out there in particular, Sal, who are going, you know, I'm keen on my business, and I've either got a career of my own, whether that's high level corporate or anything in between. How do I go about supporting my tradie to take the leap at the same time? Because you've got to do it as a team. You've got to make that decision together. And, you know, Sal, you were in your corporate job until not that long ago.
Yeah, so I had what I called my day job.
Yes.
I had some good bosses and stuff that understood what we were trying to achieve from Alykan's perspective. So I got away with being able to do a little bit during the day as well for Alykan. But yeah, I would work my day job for I think 3 years. And then I'd come home at night or lunch times and or mornings and do the bookkeeping and the marketing and the processes, and pretty much just looked at the strengths that I had that I could contribute to the business from the experiences that I had. And then took me probably 6 months from the deciding that I wanted to move realistically full-time into the business to actually executing on it, which was a big jump.
It was, I remember it fondly.
So it wasn't an overnight thing. There was a lot of, giving up what you perceived as your sort of your life goals and changing your life goals to something that, and I should have done it sooner. Like ultimately should have done it sooner. But Tristan and I,
the common thread, Sal, especially the wife going, I wish I'd have done it sooner. But at the same time, it's that identity shift, isn't it? And it's been very cool to watch, because our goal's been working towards Tristan sort of stepping out a little further, and we've seen you just rise in your role, and all of your corporate experience is just blowing the business out of the water, taking it to a whole other level, which is pretty cool. And certainly in the team perspective, from that element of the business, you've really come in and taken quite a significant role in that space, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Tristan and I have had lots of conversations around where we sit skill set wise. We set it right up from front of we used to say to the guys, if Tristan calls you into the office, it will be for a friendly kind of discussion. But if you get you must go and see Sally and have this conversation, then you're probably in a little bit more trouble. So we kind of set up the roles as having me more process oriented.
Yeah.
And Tristan being able to have that more sort of collegial kind of.
Yeah, more relationship, more building the trust and almost family type run business, even though we're bigger than that now.
Yeah.
Have that friendliness, have that camaraderie, have that trust with the guys.
And I think too, the thing that strikes me, and we've talked about it when creating the rules of the game at Alykan and things like that, is safety is paramount. I mean, you are an electrical company, and creating that safe space where people can pick up the phone to you, Tristan, and go, I think I might be cocking this up. How do I go about it? Like, having that sort of multifaceted leadership, directorship opportunity between the two of you is very cool to see and to watch. All right, so today's topic or podcast name is Building an A-grade Team, pun totally intended, since we're talking about electricians. So tell us about taking the leap into recruiting your first ever staff member. Can you remember?
Yeah, I can.
It's not that long ago, but it's a lot of people ago, but it's not that long ago in time.
Yeah, so it was one of those roles where you go, you know what, I only want to work on my own. I want to be myself. And it was literally less than 6 months into the business, I was going, this is nearly impossible. I need help.
8 weeks. 8 weeks.
8 weeks. 8 weeks, I need help. And I was working with a young guy. I was also a crew leader in state emergency service. And I was working with a young guy who needed a change in career as well. He hated his job, hated everything about it. And as I said, I needed help. So I didn't follow any rules, didn't follow any recruitment process, didn't do anything that I should have, and went with my gut and said, yeah, let's give it a go. And hired him. He is just literally passed all his exams in the last 2 weeks and is now almost fully qualified.
So that was your first recruit. It was based on sort of a values-based decision by the sound of it, knowing through your connections through the SES, got that volunteering kind of mindset, and obviously a bit of a goer in one way or another, and loyal too, because he's still with you how many years later?
Yeah, 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah. And so, can you remember, like, did it feel comfortable making that decision at the 6 or 8 week period?
Absolutely not.
Not at all.
We'd never employed someone ourselves. We'd never been responsible for someone else's life. We were responsible for making sure he had an income. I had to then suddenly make sure that I had enough work for him every day, because if I didn't have work, I was still paying for someone that so it was very scary. We debated it between myself and Sally for a very long time before hiring. And we even actually had the conversation, because we were sort of friends before we employed him, we had the conversation saying, hey, if this doesn't work, you may have to find another job. And that was a scary conversation as well. So we weren't at that stage backing ourselves even. We knew we wanted it, but as I said, we did almost everything wrong, but got the right employee. So it's a bit of luck on the first one.
And we didn't know, like, all the rules, regulations, how to hire, what even apprentice requirements were. So we're members of Master Electricians, and they've actually got a really great support network of companies that they work with. So we worked with a company called AdStaff, who do apprentice mentoring, and they actually helped us through all the requirements for onboarding the apprentice, making sure that we had the right contracts in place. So coming from corporate, it was like, I knew that you never brought anybody in without having a contract. And having these policies and things. So there was a few late nights of trying to get the contracts sorted out, getting that sort of thing. So our industry association was fabulous, and provided us with all the content that we needed. And then AdStaff helped us navigate through the apprenticeship requirements, so that we made sure that we were doing everything that we should do, even though we didn't necessarily know all the detail for it to cover ourselves.
And that's an interesting thing to discuss there, Sal, because people, they don't know what they don't know. Now, you guys knew what you probably needed from your your corporate background, so that probably was a bit of a savior. But I guess a bit of the messaging in there is lean on your industry associations, call Fair Work or whoever it is that you need to, and you can access those through government websites, etc., to get the info that you need, because contracts are a big thing that we observe a lot in trades industry. People just go, oh, is that a thing?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things around providing a foundation of people and your team. There's a lot of emotion, and there's a lot of how you get the good feelings and stuff, but you always have to have that sort of objective, this is roles and responsibilities, so you can always pull people back to that, which for performance discussions and all that sort of thing as well. But yeah, that first hire, we learned
like many guys, it's sort of, we feel like we're pretty busy, we need to do something about it, I need support. Yeah. Oh yeah, you seem like a good pick. Let's go for it. Bless his cotton ones. We love Clado. He's been with you for a while now. So and I've enjoyed getting to know him too. So when hiring over the years, where has it gone wrong?
I got to a point, I think it was about our fourth hire. We got to a point where we got very, very busy, and we stuck an ad out. We were doing it all ourselves at this point because we thought we knew enough by this stage, and found a guy, and I decided to basically hire him on the spot. We did do a reference check for this guy,
and we did an interview,
but
we didn't involve anyone in the team.
It was just myself and Sally. We decided ourselves. We didn't involve anyone else. The interviews were relatively quick because we needed someone and we needed them quickly. Within about 3 days, we were getting a lot of red flags. Within 5 days, we were saying we need to get rid of this guy and we need to get rid of him now.
When our second apprentice rings us, who never says boo to a ghost, he was very quiet, he was not confrontational, and he rang Tristan and he said, he goes, I just remember hearing on the phone, he goes, I don't think I've done any work today. And Tristan goes, what do you mean? And he said, I think we've just driven around and I haven't done any work. And we're like, oh, this is not good for it. So that's when we started doing a little bit more investigating. And was it day 5 we decided that he was not a good fit. I had 2 pages worth of infractions of things that he hadn't done, unsafe things, and day 6 Tristan fired him.
So what was it about that? And we'll talk about what your very robust process is now shortly, but what was it about that you reflect that wasn't ideal for the people listening who are likely looking for people at the moment?
I think the biggest mistakes was rushing. We were in a situation where I wasn't saying we were desperate for extra help. There's always avenues. There's labour hire, there's subcontractors, there's friends, there's whatever. But I got in the mindset that we needed someone and we needed them extremely quickly. I think that was the first mistake.
We didn't counterbalance, so we didn't have other people interviewing. We kind of like took the first one that sort of could string a sentence together. We didn't have that check and balance.
So it was all about too quick.
Too quick, basically. Too quick.
Yeah, which is often something that we hear is they go, oh, I wish I had have gone through the process. Now we've got one fella who's a builder in regional Victoria, and he's a big advocate for the process now. Go through the process. Make sure you go through the process. For the same reason, you get a bit burnt. Yeah. Beautiful. All right. Oh, sorry, Trist. Yep.
I was going to say, probably what made it worse is our first qualified that we hired, we didn't follow a process. We followed more or less similar process to what we did on the guy that we fired. Gut feel, quick interview, and basically hired our first qualified on the spot following a similar process, very quick. And he's turned out to be a superstar. So, it doesn't mean that you're doing it quick is wrong, but it certainly can lead to a lot of problems.
Yeah. And I think too, where you guys, do things well is when it's not working, you act on that quickly rather than going, I'll just keep giving him a go. I'll give him another week. We'll see what happens. I'll just give him another week and see what happens. What's driven that? Because I'll say very, very much in our industry, we hold on to people for too long. So why don't you?
I guess that's a bit of my background. So I sort of brushed over it very quickly at the start, but I was employed by a large retail company in New Zealand where I was directly responsible for 150 people. Part of that is if you've got a bad egg amongst that, it can quickly spread amongst the whole team. And before you know it, your whole team becomes underperforming. Even at the early stages, our team were striving to do what was right. They were better than what I had seen in the industry in the past. And the last thing I wanted to see was our team drop to the level that I'd seen in other companies. So I think you just got to keep in mind that, what's what they say, one bag egg can ruin a whole batch. Get rid of that as quickly as possible.
And then the team also sees you acting on that behaviour so that they don't, and I've seen in corporates where you've got somebody who's behaving badly, and if management don't deal with it, then they're kind of condoning that behaviour. And as Tristan said, bad egg, then that behaviour spreads. And the respect that the rest of the team have for you and being able to deal with those sort of, those harder conversations drops, and that doesn't build a good structure for the company overall.
100%. Could not have said it better myself, guys. And so what have you learnt through your experiences and then gone on to implement to make your recruiting or team building processes more robust? Tell us a bit about the Alykan way.
I think after that situation, Tristan and I both looked at each other and said we won't hire anybody without having our team's involvement. And even the team now say it's the Alykan grilling. If you can get through it, then you're part of the team. So that's a big thing, is making sure we've committed to going, our people are working with these new people coming in, they should be part of the selection process.
It's worked really well in the sense that we don't just go and get the senior people involved in these interviews. We actually get a first year apprentice involved as well, if we've got a first year or second year apprentice, just so that it is across the board. And as it's happened that one of our apprentices has become a superstar at interviewing, he picks things that we don't see and asks some really, really good questions. But now it's a buy-in. So if we hire somebody, it's the team that's decided that they want them, which means that they're included almost straight away. It's not, some of the team going, oh, what did you hire that guy for? It's the team's decision. And that person, the new person coming on board, gets accepted a lot quicker and becomes part of the team a lot quicker.
Yeah. And your team are invested in their success too, because they've given them the green light. So I love this strategy. It's been great to watch how that unfolds for you guys, because they really want it to work because they were on that interview panel.
Yeah. What was interesting is we've had people where you said, particularly if you're looking at a tradesman, and you go, how do you work with apprentices? And they introduce to say that the apprentices on the call and through the interview process. And it's been fascinating. We've seen tradesmen who have been interviewed going, oh, the apprentice is just there just to do the dirty work and the shit work and stuff. And you're like going, you've got an apprentice right there.
They're right there.
And we're going, that's not the environment we want to encourage. We want people to, pass on the knowledge. We want to build our apprentices into amazing tradespeople. So we want to make sure that the people we're bringing in will contribute to that. And we've had a few people self-select out of the interview process. Actually one just this week, through some of the discussions that we've had, because we start with a phone interview, then it moves into a group interview, and then we will sometimes, with COVID, I think we've hired about 4 or 5 people through COVID. We've been doing online, and then we'll go to a face-to-face meeting, which is more that casual cultural kind of conversation, for people to be able to have that, get to know the team, and for the team to actually interview them as well.
It's something that we sort of introduced sort of mid last year, is what we call the coffee interview. It sounds really counterproductive, where they literally just go to a coffee shop, have a coffee, have a cake, whatever, and just have general conversation for half an hour to an hour. No set questions, no set anything. It's just interactions. And it's amazing what can come out of that sort of environment, because they relax and they start saying things in a relaxed non-interview thing that actually can either make or break that person from coming on board.
It creates a bit of vulnerability, I suppose, that setting where, it's a bit more relaxed. Yeah,
we have a very structured interview process, as one of the key interviews before that one, is, really drilling into technical skill sets, drilling into value bases, and we ask some pretty hard questions. Like, I think one of the questions that always triggers interesting responses, tell me of a time you've helped a friend or family member in need, and going about how they actually would go through that, because the value that we have in our team is around the care, helping each other, not really blaming people for mistakes and things, and really that growth kind of mindset. And that's always one that sort of triggers different reactions from interviewees. And
beautiful question, listeners. Pinch that, write that one down. It's an excellent one. And so let's dig into that a bit further, because I agree, you're like, watching your team and how they support and care for each other is one of the standout parts of the Alykan way, I suppose you would say. How do you choose those people? What are you looking for? You mentioned values there. Obviously skills come into it, but is it a gut thing? And you've talked about your team being involved, but
look, it's a little bit of every column, I suppose. Gut definitely comes into it, and it still comes into it, because if someone's gut saying there's something wrong with this person, so far we've never proved that wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely gut, but it's whether they'll fit. One of the questions that was asked to me really early on when I started to do interviewing for another company was, could you see yourself being friends with this person outside of work? Now that sounds like a strange question in itself, but if you don't want to be around that person or associate with that person outside of work, why would you want to associate with them at work?
Yeah.
And you know, if you take that as your grounding or your benchmark and then work from that, if they surpass that by a mile, then the chances are they're going to be fine.
And we take two things into account. So if you're looking at a tradesman, they've got their license. Yep. Now, to get your license, you have to do 4 years of education. You have to pass exams. So everyone's got different levels of that. But technically, they have met the requirements to receive their registration and their qualification. So from a technical perspective, they've got the base level. We can teach the technical. We really focus in on them as a human, what their values are, what motivates them, what drives them. And towards the end of the process, we don't use it as part of the selection process, but we use the DISC profiling to understand them more around what will motivate them, what will sit well with them in an environment, and how we do that. And then on the apprentice side, we assume that they know nothing because our job is to teach them the technical, but we were looking for people who show that little bit of extra motivation, the drive to learn.
That want to do the job, not because someone else tells them that they should.
Yeah, so that's sort of where we focus on for the two, either the apprentice or the tradesperson. There's stuff we can teach, but there's things that we look for that's inherent just in them as a human being.
And so it sounds like from that first hire to now that the process has grown. So what sort of timeline does it take us to recruit nowadays?
COVID's making everything challenging. I'd say outside of COVID, you're looking potentially 4 weeks. At the moment, we've had an ad out for nearly 8 weeks already. And
8 weeks, 5 phone interviews, 1 face-to-face interview, and
still haven't found anyone.
Yeah. So I guess that, the message there is to find the right person. It takes time.
And you need to start planning before you actually really need that person.
Yes.
So you don't rush yourself or back yourself into a corner where you're having to go, I really need to actually just bring on anybody that's got a pulse, as opposed to someone who's going to fit within the company. So
such a good point, Sal, and
yeah,
Josie especially prattles on about this to the clients. When do we need to be factoring into the budget when you want to drop a new person? What's happening with your scheduling, and how's that? What sort of revenue do you need to be hitting before you go, yep, now's the right time to pull the lever for 8 weeks' time when the new person starts? So there are a lot of levers to pull, aren't there?
Yeah, and the other thing as well is we don't do the whole process. So we work with ad staff around doing the front end recruitment process. We've been working with them for 4 years, so they understand our company really well now. They know the type of people we're looking for, so they do all the initial screening, all the front end work, because we found that if you just go straight out to market, you could be getting 40, 50 applications, of which 20 of them are not even relevant to the job that they're applying for. So we do use people through that process. So it's not just about Tristan and me, it's about our team, it's about the support network around it. And the cost that you pay for that disappears very quickly
it's an investment, isn't it? Because and I guess if we think about the journey that you guys have gone on from beginning to now, bringing in or outsourcing parts of the process has come with time. Dependent on where your business is at and what you can actually afford to invest in from that perspective. Just like you, most people need to learn how to go through it themselves, have that experience. go, oh, yep, okay, this is what I want in my process now, and I'm comfortable with that, and I'm happy to outsource it to somebody else.
Yeah, because we do police checks, we do medical checks, so every person coming on board has a medical, and it's not to select people out, it's to make sure that we've actually got an environment that if somebody does have a pre-existing injury, that we don't exacerbate it. If they have a thing that we need to be aware of, we can then make relevant accommodations within the work and all that sort of thing. So we can bring great people on board, protecting ourselves always, but it also works with them as well.
But we also look at the cost factor. Yes, it costs money to hire a person. So therefore, if you get it right the first time and you don't have to replace them, then you don't have that cost again. So we've only lost the one that I had to fire and one that was an apprentice who just decided it wasn't for them. But other than that, all our hires have stayed with us.
You've retained them, which excellent segue. But thank you very much, Tristan, because I want to know now about, because, you know, retaining staff. So some of the things, just to give everybody a bit of context, and we've talked about this in the past, people will say things like, oh, you can't keep staff post their apprenticeship. You've got to keep paying heaps more money to keep them. There's all these reasons, I guess, that we either turn over people or people leave. So you haven't had that experience over since 2017. Tell us what you think that is attributed to. How have you built that culture?
So one of the things that we get told regularly in interviews, whether we've hired them or not, is a lot of people change jobs because they're just a number. They're not, you know, the bosses don't know who they are. They're not valued as a person. The opinions don't count. So even part of the interviewing process where we're getting everyone involved means that they're involved. They actually felt like their opinion matters. We do regular team meetings to get people's input and ideas. We try and get them involved all the way through, and that's, I think, one of the big things. It's not always about money. In our industry, our biggest competition is paying more money than ours, and their team, we know people in there and they're not as happy. In fact, they're nowhere near as happy as our team, and they're getting more money. So it's not always about the money, it's about the environment.
Yeah, and we're very open around our financial status, where the company's actually at, how much money we're making or not making, what our sort of goals and things are, what we want to achieve as a company, and having the team actually contribute to that as well.
Huge. That's such a big thing. And we know all the research about good leadership and building good teams. One of the key features there is always they like to be in the know.
Yeah.
And I think you guys really demonstrate the power of having people in the know, because it is very transparent.
And that they know how that they contribute to
the outcomes. Yeah.
And we also invest back into them. So we've said we've got budget aside for training that they can do each year. We've even created a pretty big incentive around if we hit a certain milestone on net profit, that we will take the team away on a holiday, them and their partners.
Not just any holiday. Let's go there. Where are you taking them?
The first trip's to the Gold Coast. So that would be 20 people that would be taking to the Gold Coast, and the next, and then there was a bit of joking around, and then we said, well, if we make a really big net profit jump, I think it was 2.5 times that goal. What was the joke? We sort of went, oh, we'll go overseas.
And then they said, well, we want to go to Japan. So we've actually now stuck that in writing as such. So if we hit a certain dollar figure, we'll take everyone and their partners to Japan for a holiday.
What do you think that's done for the team?
It's got buy-in. They are now looking at ways to help us save money, and are looking at ways to help us make more money, because they can see that it's not just helping line myself and Sally's pockets, it's actually got a direct impact on them. Now, I know some companies do bonuses and all the other bits and pieces, but when you've got a team of people that are not as focused on money, or it's not that they want the whole environment, giving them some money back doesn't necessarily encourage them to work harder. Where you give them a goal to work towards, and they certainly work harder, and they want to achieve that goal. They don't.
And from an investment perspective, because that's ultimately what we're investing, is looking around 25% of that net profit back into the company, into the people, for that. So you get that response back from them, which, you know, is fabulous.
It's absolutely fabulous.
And we get a holiday too, which is great.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Because that's the kind of incentive. And, you know, that was my last sort of question, which again, we've segued to beautifully around how you incentivize your team, because you're right. What you've stated there is it isn't all about money. It's about working through what motivates them. And I think people won't necessarily take themselves on a holiday if they've got time off, whereas if it's imposed upon them, I guess, in a way, if you could say a holiday's ever imposed on anyone, they're getting shouted, it's a great reward to ensure that they've got a good work-life balance too.
I think it loops back. When we started Alykan, we wanted to build a business where we could have fun, where we could not necessarily be under, you know, we've worked in corporates, we've worked in large government organisations where sort of like there's this mandate and you're on the machine, and the whole reason we set up Alykan was not to be on a machine, so to speak. So I think it all loops back around being quite clear around our values, what we're wanting to achieve with the business, and then getting processes and finding people that then do that. So it just sort of self-perpetuates. It's just
we wanted a company where I wanted to work at, not just where I had to work at, where I wanted to work at, even to the point where decisions like our Christmas parties, we don't go to a pub for a Christmas party because everyone just goes to a pub, gets drunk, goes home. There's no, it's just not what we do. So we do experiences at Christmas. So we've done axe throwing, we've done an escape room, we've done
winery tour and a stretch Hummer.
So, but the team makes those decisions. So it's as I said, it's almost like a family, even though we're a lot bigger than that now. And we treat it that way, and it works.
And we get the partners involved, because our theory is that the person that's going to work with us then goes home and either bitches and moans about the shit day of job that they had and, you know, blah, 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 and all this crap, or they go home and they share with their partner, you know, I've had a great day, or I've had a challenging day, but it's been really exciting and interesting. So their partner actually lives and breathes what they're doing as a day job. So that's why we get them involved, so that they're part of and can see what their person's getting up to during the day.
Amazing. So important and so missed. Like that point is missed too often in business, that the person at home is just as much make or break for the retention of that person in your business or not, you know, and you know, whatever their motivations are and whatever their goals are, the partner that's working their job or at home with kids or whatever it might be, massive thing that you've really nailed there as far as building a great culture, which is pretty amazing.
I think that was something that we actually bought from New Zealand. It blew us away when we came over 10 years ago, where we're like, all the Christmas parties, Tristan I said, I've got my Christmas party, cool, where are we going? And I said, you're not invited. And we're like, what? And then everything, and I was like, it was something where back in New Zealand we were like, this is something just part of your partner's part of the work family. So we thought that's what we want to bring here and be part of for us.
Beautiful. Another hot tip there for everybody. I hope everyone's scrawling notes ferociously. So performance and managing performance. So you've mentioned that the team's strong and you've got great staff with great values, you retain them well, but not everybody's perfect, I'm sure. what happens when the performance, well, like how do you manage performance at Alykan? Is it something that you just do when shit hits the fan, or give us a bit of insight?
No, I think if you wait until the shit hits the fan, or you wait for a yearly performance review, if you wait full stop, then matters quite often get worse. We were doing 6 monthly performance reviews with casual conversations in between. We've actually progressed now to the 90-day type plan, where every single team member gets a performance review every 90 days with conversations in between if needed. If there's an issue, it's so much easier dealing with it immediately, and then you can fix it and correct it. With those performance reviews, we actually set them goals and targets. So there's something to be talked about. If we've got a member that's not performing, it's so much easier to deal with a non-performer if you've got something to measure it against. If it's all airy-fairy and you've got nothing really in concrete, then there's no way of actually easily correcting the behaviours.
Yeah, and then you line that up with, we did the rules of the game. So we did that workshop with you, where we're really sort of getting the team to go, what is acceptable behaviour? And so then it becomes, hey, we saw this behaviour and that doesn't line up with what we've talked about. Why did that particular thing happen? Because there's generally a reason behind it. Someone was either, as I said to Tristan, people don't get up each morning and go, I'm going to go and have a shit day at work.
That's right. I'm going to really wreck some shit today. I'm keen for that. People don't do it. You're right, Sal.
No. So if you start from that basis of they're not trying to have a shit day at work, but good people make bad decisions. And it's about understanding why they made that bad decision, so that we can either change a process, find a gap, fix the process, have a discussion around the performance, or go, actually, maybe you just need to take a holiday, have had a break, or that sort of thing. So it's the combination of having that more formal structure, but then balancing it off with being observant, know your people, and calling them out when they don't meet the standards that the company or that they even would accept.
But part of our culture as well is we've said from day one, own up if you stuff up. So that's been great for our company. So yeah, people make mistakes all the time, but previously people used to try and hide those mistakes, and it's a lot harder to fix something if it's hidden. So what we've done by own up if you stuff up is they own up straight away. We can then have a look at the decision process or why things went wrong and fix it without going down a disciplinary track or performance management track. We can actually fix it without having to go down that road, which means that, yeah, why our team's not perfect, no team ever is, we can deal with the issues a lot quicker and fix them before they become serious.
And I think the thing I observed too is that people are invested in implementing and really embedding the rules of the game or those systems that you guys have come up with around values and behaviours. Because, a couple of your staff have emailed, can I get a copy of that? They've emailed me before around what you've come up with, and it's really incredible to see that they're taking on that responsibility for that stuff too, and making sure that it rolls through the entire business. So,
and I think there's been times where they've even called us out and went, it's not quite in line. And
that's always fun, isn't it, when the staff start going, that's against the rules of the game or whatever it might be, and you go, okay, fair enough.
Yep.
Fabulous. Okay, guys, so we've had there's so much value in this chat. If you were to boil it down and one thing each here, if you can get down to one thing each, what's a piece of advice around building an A-grade team that you would give to people who might be listening to this?
I know we've all heard it from day one when we're kids, but treat others how you'd want to be treated. That's a big one. But I'm going to throw an extra one in there. Trust your gut as well.
Yeah.
I think if you put those two things together, I think it's easy to do the right thing.
Love it. Sal?
I think it's that always look for the good in people, and how you can build that person up, because what you give out to the world and what you give out to those people will come back 10 times stronger than what you put in. So I think really take that time to invest in them, get to know them as people. They're not there to try and do a shit job. They want to be successful in their lives. If you can help them, then it'll come back tenfold.
Oh, absolutely love it. Guys, it has been an absolute privilege and a pleasure. And there's so much gold in this. There's about 45 bazillion podcasts wrapped into one there. So many nuggets in there that you've shared with everybody. And I know how much that's going to help others, which is a big part of the way you two work too. So you give so much to our community, and we're really grateful for that at Ladies with Tradies as well. So we thank you very much for your time, and I know everybody out there will be thrilled to have all this great info and advice to work on and put into their businesses too. Thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.